This is the Dave Elliott Show.
And a very good Wednesday morning to you. Thank you for finding a few minutes out to be with us at 7 a.m. on Wednesday, August 26th, 2026. And as I look at the calendar, I realize today is Reg Buxton Day. And Reg, you have a big fan out there listening to the show this morning.
Really?
Yeah, his name is Tommy LaRocca. He was on with us yesterday. He's an entertainer. He lives in New Jersey and Naples, and he'll be down here in November performing at the Bayfront Inn. He does everything. He does standards and Sinatra and yacht rock and everything. But he mentioned to me yesterday on the show that he really looks forward to hearing you on the radio with me or on the internet with me.
Well, I don't know him, but I pity him if I'm someone that
he likes to listen to.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, different strokes for different folks.
Well, I mean, that's great. So he'll be down here in November then, huh?
Yeah, he's performing up in the East Coast area now, and he'll be here in November. We're going to go see him. Maybe I'll call you. We'll meet for a toddy over at the Bayfront Inn and enjoy it.
Oh, why not, man?
We have really lucked out this hurricane season so far, and I know you follow this closely because you've been so intimately involved with emergency management. The most recent system, I was just watching ABC, or what do they call it, Gulf Coast ABC or NBC.
Right.
And they do a pretty good job of keeping us up to date. Yep. Jim Dickey, the meteorologist there, just said that it looks like all the models are pointing toward this latest thing to come off the coast of Africa, hitting some significant wind shear and not being an issue for us.
Yeah.
Any reason for concern that you see?
No, other than that it's a storm and it's nature, and they can do anything they want to do. That doesn't mean that forecasters aren't right, a great percentage of the time. But, just imagine you got this big boiling strong front out there, and it's churning up water, and it's got winds it's worried about, and this is happening and all that. It has no mind of its own. The mind it has is, what are the winds doing? What are the conditions? Is the water warmer, so it's going to get fuel? Is it going to come over cold water where it's going to lose speed? Is it going to run into wind shear, which cuts it early? Of course, the bigger it gets, the harder it is to. But no, they do a great job. I try to catch them in the morning, just for an update. Anything that happened overnight.
They're pretty reliable.
You use the numbers. You use the. I hate to. I'm not going to say it. I was going to say you use the science, but I can't do that. But you use the numbers. You use what and you put it in there. And of course, we use computers. Computers are used on that, and most of the time, it's more than accurate. I mean, it's right there. The ones that are weird, and people I'm sure understand this, as we get later in the season, and then we're talking about the Gulf. A storm in the Gulf with everything's right can go from a thunderstorm to a Cat 1 or 2 within 3 days.
Yeah, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds.
Yeah,
And those are the ones that are actually way more dangerous than the ones coming off of Africa, because you don't have a lot of lead time. It can pop up so quickly, and they can be very unpredictable.
And very, very. I remember watching Charlie. Charlie's wandering on up very well. Charlie's going to get into Tampa or someplace. Charlie all of a sudden said, I haven't seen Punta Gorda lately.
Tore the roof off the Holiday Inn up there.
Yeah, so it is Mother Nature. But I think they do a great. Right now, if you live here, you should have your extra water. You should have this. If you live here, it's almost like it's your birthday. What happens on your birthday? Okay, somebody gives you cake. Somebody sings happy birthday. All right, it's hurricane season. What do? You make sure you got your meds. If you needed to take them, you got them. Everything together. You got a route to get out of here if you need to. If you're going to stay here, fine. Make sure you have water. Make sure whatever you need. Make sure you have communication. Make sure you got extra batteries. and then say, all right, here I am, come. I mean,
Tim,
nobody can stand out in the street and say, storm, go away. Storm's going to go.
Tim
Cool,
Aiden
man.
just texted me and said, I call it hurricane horoscope. A little science and a lot of conjecture.
I like that.
I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. So,
Tim and I were talking yesterday about, and you've been on the MPO and you've been the chairman of the MPO.
Yeah.
One of the things that the county has is this rule regarding how close gas stations can be to each other. And the case in point is the new Costco that's being built at Rattlesnake Hammock Road and County Road 951.
Right.
And they had to grant an exemption for them to put gas pumps in because they were within 500 feet of, I guess, the 7-Eleven gas pumps. Okay. So they did that, and now the commission is thinking about, I guess, changing the rule so that won't be a restriction anymore. Do you have any thoughts on that, or does this make sense to you as a former city commissioner or MPO member?
Yeah, and I was on the board of governors for the state for that too. Here's the deal: everything is changeable. I mean,
as approved by the Costco project.
Yes, now so you got Costco. All right, Costco is a great boon to a neighborhood. I mean, when there was only one Costco here or one Sam's Club here, people would drive 20, 30 miles to get there. Yeah. Now, there's more than one. But what comes with that, $4.99, not that I know anything about what's inside those stores, those $4.99 chickens and stuff like that are really good.
They are.
But part of their business is gas. They have 3, 4. I don't know. It's been a while since I got gas, but they probably got 18, 20 pumps. I mean, that's part of their revenue plan. It's part of their marketing plan. So then you have to look at, all right, we're going to bring this. We're going to bring high quality products at a reduced price to the neighborhood. People want that. They're not going to have to put more time on the road to go get it. All right, but with that, then. And Costco is going to say, look, part of my deal is, it's like a football player. The guy says, I'm going to wear pads. I'm going to wear a helmet. I'm going to wear cleats and all that. That's part of the game. So that's part of it if you want it. Now, would you want 4 of those things within 10, 15 miles? Probably not. Is the 7-Eleven happy? I don't know. What's the 7-Eleven's gas price? People run across the street for a penny on a gallon of gas. So I guess.
They used to. I think it's more like 50 cents now, probably.
Yeah.
But the thing that I think is going to happen is if it turns out it's a traffic snarl, a nightmare because everybody's trying to get in and out, people will just say, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'll go someplace else. So the marketplace will decide whether this is a good idea or not.
Yeah, there was an article, I forget where I read it a couple of weeks ago, about in some areas of the country, there's a horrible parking problem with Costco's, and people have their own plans where, I'm going to park way out here because if I park way out there, I don't have to do this and all that kind of stuff. Now, you'd love to be in a business where your parking lot is so full that people have trouble finding a place to park so they can come in and spend money.
I once had a good friend of mine who's no longer with us, but he was a head of the downtown association in a community. And he once told me, he said, the only time you have a parking problem is when there are no cars parked anywhere.
That's right.
That's a parking problem.
That's a parking problem. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
When we lived in the city, we spent a little more time on Fifth than we do now. But I can remember sitting in a table by the window in restaurants down there and watching people on the weekends drive around. You watch the same car.
Oh, sure.
They're not going to park on 4th, and they're not going to park on 6th, where there are parking places, or they're not going to park in a parking garage, which is on either end. They're going to just keep going around until they get that place. Remember the A&W in Flint?
I do remember the A&W with those foot-long coney dogs.
Yep, and and I can remember after high school football practice, we get in my car. My two buddies, there was three lineman type guys, and the car is supposed to hold two. It was a sports car, and we drive down there, and we drive round and round until we could get that spot in the back there, and then then we put the top down and we set up on the thing, and everybody get a quart, man. Now when you practice any sport for a couple hours, you dehydrate. And I think a quart of root beer was 35 cents, a real quart, and the three of us would sit there and our moms would say, how come who are doing? Mom, we had some, coach made us.
Well, most people thought that you were really cruising looking for chicks.
Well, I must admit that never turned any down.
That's assuming you got some offers.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you got to get in the game, man. That's right. You got to have a uniform on. Sitting in the stands isn't doing any good there.
All right. So here's a question for you regarding root beer, then, just to veer off the subject for a minute. Ice or no ice?
If it's really, really, really cold, I don't need the ice. But I don't like lukewarm or I like really cold drinks. So if you pull it out of the fridge and it's really cold, then I'll just drink it like that. If it's not, then I gotta put something in there.
I always learned that putting ice in root beer was like putting ice in beer. You just don't do it.
Well, I'm not the most couth guy in the world. So. A lot of people will say that. So
I'm sure.
Yeah.
The other there's a lot of news out there that is kind of wonky, but I think it. When I first came here in '94, everybody tuned in to watch the city council meetings on TV or showed up, and the county commission meetings. No matter what came out of the county commission meetings or the city council meetings or the school board meetings, there was reporting on it. It was an uneventful night at the city council last night, but the following items took place.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if you get reporting about city council, county commission, school board, any government entity, if there was nothing noteworthy or sensational, it does not get reported.
No.
My point is, I think that people would become more civically involved if there was more routine reporting of governmental entities' meetings. They're all open to the public.
Absolutely. Well, and you can get them. You can sit at home and pick them up on the TV.
Yeah, you can watch the school board on whatever it is, channel 98, 99, something like that.
Same with the county commission, and then the airport meetings are all
broadcast.
City council.
And even the city of Marco Island meetings are on TV.
Yeah, I wonder what they talk about down
there. You. Wonder what Reg thinks about this.
Well, I don't know about that, but I spent some time down there trying to help them out with some different things, and it's tough. It's tough.
Well, Marco, I remember. I'm sure you do too. Remember when Marco Island was incorporated as a city? Yes. And a lot of people thought, you know what, they don't have the tax base to do this. They need the county's support. But it turns out that the Marco Island City Police Department is separate and distinct from the sheriff's office.
Yep.
They have their own management. They have a new city manager, Mike McNeese. I guess is back at the county. Is that what I understand?
I had heard that, but I couldn't tell you where and what.
I can't remember, but I know that when he left, he had been at the county. Well, he had been at the city of Naples.
Yeah.
And then he went to the county, and then he wound up as city manager on Marco. And then I heard that he went back to the county, and he's in some capacity there. One of the good public servants in this town.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe the tallest man in government.
Yeah. Good stuff, man, because you do everything right in government, and 40% of the people aren't going to like you.
Yeah. But we're not getting regular routine reporting from these governmental entities. When was the last time you heard a story about the Collier County School Board, for example?
Oh, no, that's true, but I listen to all that stuff.
What do you mean? Oh, you mean you watch the meetings?
Oh, watch it, or somebody watches it and then brings me in on it and stuff. Plus, the superintendent. I mean, without bugging people, you can certainly have a small conversation with them and saying, what do you think? What do you got going? What do you think's coming up and stuff like that? You got to communicate. It's hard to communicate here because the normal venues that would communicate for you aren't there anymore.
Yeah, well, I guess that's where I'm going with this.
Yeah,
when I look at the local paper's website, I see stories from 2 months ago that are still, hanging out on there.
Well, you have to have reporters to generate content, and first of all, they don't have as many reporters. There are very few, and I'm not going to name names. Everybody that's in that business is like what I used to be. You know who they are, who they aren't. Very few people that you could call up and say, Reg, I think that this is going on over here, and I think it's important. And Reg would say, okay. And I would have 3 or 4 people in the community that I could call and say, tell me about this. Is this happening? What do you think? And then they would say, well, it could be, you might want to talk over here, or you might want to go to this business and see that. We only have 1 or 2 people right now in professional journalism in this town that you can give an idea to or a fact to, and they can elaborate on it and report on it.
It's called the lack of institutional memory.
That's the one.
You bring somebody in who just arrived last Tuesday from Altoona, and they don't know anything from Shinola about what's happening around here, and they're expected to dive in and add perspective and context to what the people are talking about. No. And that's not a criticism, because this is a market.
You don't know.
This is a market that is a stepping stone market. People come here first and they learn their ropes, and then they move on to other places.
Yep. You learn how to play the game. You learn how to get to the power brokers if you can. You learn to have people that'll call you in the middle of the night and say, you might want to,
But we don't have the people that we used to have. Like I think of Jeff Lytle, for example, who's one of the great resources. Was one of the great resources in print.
Jeff writes for me in the magazine.
I know he does.
He says, what do you want me to write on? I said, write on anything, man. I know your history. I may not agree with what you write, or I may not like what you write, but I'm going to tell you it's going to be a good story. There's going to be facts. There's going to be a starting. There's going to be an end. There's going to be, why did we do this? In the discussion. That's all he's got. So he sends it in and I print it. I mean, all we do is check the grammar and make sure it fits. So. And
I bet you don't have to do a lot of changing with him.
No.
He's a pro. No. He's one of the.
We just don't have that. And I guess they don't want it.
Well, I'm not sure what the deal is, but the idea of meeting in the sunshine is kind of out the window, because even though they do meet in the sunshine, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes.
Oh, absolutely.
And on top of that, you don't have the media scrutinizing every little thing that comes up. It's only when somebody says, "Hey, did you see what's on the consent agenda that shouldn't be there?" Or what about this deal? What about that deal? That somebody picks up on it. And if there's a drag show going to come to town or something like that, everybody gets all up in arms. But if it's over a zoning deal, nobody seems to care. But we should care, because you don't want to, when it comes to zoning, there used to be something, I'm sure you're familiar with the concept, spot zoning.
Yep.
Which is where you could have a commercial area mixed in with a residential area, mixed in with an industrial area, and they're all goofed up.
Yep, everybody gets along.
Yeah, and I think that if anything, the county government entities seem to be more, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, because this is just my perception from lack of reporting. They seem to be more pro-development than just about any of the other governmental entities out there, the county.
I would not disagree with that, but let's go back to the deal. only X amount of acres can be developed in Collier County, as we've talked before. But of the X amount, we've only done 30% of them. So they're viewing. We have people here coming who want to develop, and we have space to develop. People say, "Oh my God, you can't do that, partner." It's going to happen. We're going to be 500 by 2030 here. It's not that far off, and we're going to be 1 million in Collier County by 2050. I won't be around for that one. I wish I would, because a lot of people are telling me I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. Between 950 and 1 million people in Collier County.
Yeah.
Let me digress a second. There's a guy by the name. I worked for 3 publishers when I was at the Daily News. That was my direct. That was part of my contract. I reported to one person. It was a publisher. That got rid of all the other garbage in between. And the last guy I reported to was a guy by the name of Dave Neal.
Yeah, I know who he is.
Neil had a deal working with WGCU, public radio, and the deal was going to be is that he was going to turn it into what we didn't have here. He was going to turn it into a live newspaper. In other words, there weren't going to be anything printed, but we were going to have somebody that covered. I know this because there's 4 or 5 of us that were core Dave's people when he was publisher at the Daily News, and the 5 of us always got together, and we knew we would be in this game if it happened. Okay, and there was going to be somebody that covered the city council. There was going to be somebody that covered, the airport. Somebody that did all the things that a major news source is supposed to do, and we were going to do all that, and it was all going to be online.
So it would be live online. So if there was if a plane crashed at the airport, somebody would be there talking at the scene live online.
That's right.
Yeah.
And a knowledgeable person, not somebody that said, "Well, I don't know what kind of plane it was, or I don't know whether it was a big cow or a little cow," but got down to there was one more meeting, and that was going to get, I believe, approved. And FGCU shut it down. Now, FGCU took one thing from that. If you notice, in the last year, they now have a program on the weekend where they go over what happened during the week. They did not have that before Neil came up, but that was an off take. But had Neil done that, this would have been the most well covered news market county in the state. But it didn't happen. We were that close, and when that happened, Neil left. He went to Nashville. I went on doing what I was doing. Russell Tuff went on, did what he was doing. Dick Burrell and those guys, everybody just went back to what else they were doing. But the nucleus was here to put those 5 or 6 people in a room, and you could move anything.
Well, Neil was kind of a visionary. He saw the writing on the wall.
Yep.
He knew that the model of buying $1 million press from Germany and going heavy into print was not where we were headed.
No.
And then they wind up selling that press for scrap?
Yeah, they did. And that is the last press. I was not involved. I was involved in that, and that I was one of the publishers there. I did not. Fish was the guy that made that purchase.
John Fish.
But that's the last time a press of that size has been made and bought in the world.
They were going to be printing. The plan was they were going to print the Naples Daily News, the news press, I think Gulf Shore Life magazine.
USA Today. They were
going to all be printed. And now it's all printed where? In Sarasota.
Yeah, by Minions.
Minions. The little yellow guys? with one eye? Those guys?
Yeah, those guys.
Oh, my goodness.
6 of them get sucked up, yeah. But But the news force was here. I mean, it didn't have to be 200 people. It didn't have to be like it was. But back in the day, and everybody goes, "Okay, here we go." But on Sunday during season, used to print over 100,000 newspapers,
and they weighed about 8 pounds.
That's right.
I mean, when you got that newspaper home, when the stuffs fell out, it could carpet your entire living room.
Yep. Now, the great thing about that is that was advertising dollars, which lets you do what you wanted to do. You have to have advertising dollars to have reporters and do things. But now I'm going to go out on a limb. I have no idea, but I may have an idea. I doubt if they print 25,000 on Sunday.
Well, they don't tout their circulation numbers like they used to do.
No. What does that tell you? It tells you there aren't any.
Well, it does, yeah, exactly.
So we don't get, and still this will always be this corner, and I don't mean just Kaya, but this corner of the state of Florida will always be where, as long as the demographics stay the same, where you have 60, 70, 80 years old. These are people that were brought up getting the newspaper,
right?
You bring it in the house, you look at it, you fold it over, you see something you like, you fold it over again, you put it on the table, you go back and you read it again.
When I came here, I did my research. One of the things that, if you've ever sold radio or TV media, is everybody in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, the biggest competition that broadcast had was print. So everybody was doing oppo research. They were trying to find out what the weak spots and the strong spots were of their competitors. Yeah. And I remember looking up a statistic that I'll never forget, and that is that in 1994, Naples had the highest per capita newspaper usage of any city in the country. Yeah. More people per 100,000 bought and read newspapers than anywhere else in the nation. And that's because the population at the time was older, as you pointed out. Yep. And they were traditionalists in the sense that they wanted to have something tangible in their hands. I'll tell you what was instructive to me is one time I was on a PATH train from New Jersey to New York. We were up visiting. And I sat on that train, and almost every single person on that train was reading a newspaper. Yep. I mean, it was astonishing to me to see. And now they probably all have earbuds in and they're listening to a podcast.
No, that's right. Well, back in Michigan, you had morning paper.
The Detroit Free Press, and then the Detroit News was the evening paper.
And they filled them both.
And the Flint Journal.
Yeah.
Which has been gone for 20 years. Yeah. And is now just
Doug Mintline used to like me. I got more press from Doug Mintline than sports writer.
He was a great sports writer.
Some guy.
There's a name. Boy, that's a blast from the past.
Yeah. In a high school football game, could carry the ball 5 times and run for 85 yards, and he would somehow in the article. And Reg Buxton last night made 2 tackles, So obviously I got to like Doug a lot because, I mean, his shortcomings were great for me.
You remember a TV broadcaster by the name of Dick Bing?
Yes, I do.
He was on Channel 12. Yeah. And then there was Ed Phelps after him. That may have been after you left town. I don't know,
but it was. Yeah, I remember I one time in my life was quite good at hockey. We won 2 national championships. I and about 20 guys better than me. But anyways, they had a senior league going on, and these guys were really great, one team, and they said, we can score 15 goals against anybody and everything, and I happened to be a goaltender. So I went on Mintline. And he wrote, because he figured, this has got to be great. Buxton's went off the rails again. And I said, I'll tell you, those guys have never played against a top-notch goaltender. So that makes the news. So there's a game like 2 weeks from that when we play them. The final score was 9-2. I let in 9. When you're a goalie, you can tell how many mistakes you make, okay? But they were averaging 15. So in my heart, I won.
You were ahead by 6.
Yeah, I was ahead by 6. We used to laugh because the red light comes on when a goal gets scored in hockey and all that kind of. We used to say, if you were a goalie, other players would say, let me see your neck. What do you mean? Well, the red light comes on, you get a sunburn back there. It comes on too much.
I see.
Yeah. But
where did you play at IMA Auditorium?
Yeah, I am, man. And there was a junior. At that time there were 6 NHL teams, and there was the Junior Red Wings. There was this and that. We played Montreal Forum. We played Toronto. We played all over the place. Loved it.
That was when it was easy to go to Canada. You didn't need a passport.
Yeah, no, that's right. No, we just go over the bridge and if you're a hockey player, right? Hockey, hey, okay, man, go through.
Speaking of that, the Detroit just opened a new bridge to Canada called the Gordie Howe
Bridge.
Yeah,
Gordie Howe. What a great gentleman Gordie Howe was. I had the privilege of meeting him 2 or 3 times.
Well, he and I lived in the same community, and I used to do TV, and I was walking down the street one day, and he called me out. He recognized me. That was a pretty big thrill.
Yeah. For a guy that was, his shoulders didn't go out. They kind of went out and sloped.
Muscles, man, muscles.
Yeah, great guy, man.
Yeah.
Great guy.
He was a terrific guy, just the most humble guy I'd ever want to meet.
Absolutely, yeah.
Loved him.
And you notice nobody ever got in a fight with him.
You don't want to do that with a guy with a stick.
No.
They can hurt you pretty bad. Okay.
All right, buddy. Good talking to you.
Thank you, Reg. Have a good one. Reg Buxton, everybody, publisher of Life in Naples magazine, former Naples City Councilman, member of the MPO in the past, and current member of the Mosquito Control Board. I think he's the chairman, if I'm not mistaken. All right here on the Dave Elliott Show. We'll be right back.
This is the Dave Elliott Show.
Are you ready for a culinary experience like no other? Mark your calendars for the event of the season. Sizzle Dining is happening starting September 1st through the 30th. Picture this, a world of flavors, a celebration of taste, and a chance to make a difference in our community. Savor delectable dishes, expertly crafted by top chefs, each plate telling a story of passion and creativity. But that's not all. Sizzle Dining benefits Blessings in a Backpack of Southwest Florida, a charity dedicated to ensuring no child has a hungry weekend. Dine with purpose. Every time you indulge in the exquisite offerings during Sizzle Dining, a portion of the proceeds will go directly to Blessings in a Backpack. So gather your loved ones, invite your friends, and come experience culinary excellence while making a meaningful impact. Share your moments with #DineWithPurpose. Sizzle Dining, taking place the entire month of September, where taste, compassion, and community come together in perfect harmony. Reserve your table today, because with Sizzle Dining, every bite counts, and every meal matters.
When it comes to your health, there's no cookie cutter way to do things. Each person is individualized in their needs and their desires, and that's the case with your hearing too. Naples Audiology and Hearing Center, with 2 locations in Naples, one in Colonial Square off Goodlette Frank Road, the other in the Vanderbilt Commons at Vanderbilt and Collier Boulevard, are here to help you. They help you with individualized treatment. You go in for a free hearing evaluation, and if you should happen to need a little help from a hearing device, they can offer you the exact device you need, the exact technology you need for your particular needs. Don't let your hearing get in the way of enjoying your life. They even have devices that can cut out the background noise if you're in a big crowd someplace. Naples Audiology and Hearing Center, I've been going to them for years, and I know you should too. Believe me, you will notice the difference right away. Naples Audiology and Hearing Center, online at napleshearingcenter.com.
Put your phone on D&D. That means do not disturb when you're driving. And when you're going from point A to B, I need you to stay safe, please, so always sing with me. So put your phone on D&D. That means do not disturb when you're driving. And when you're going from point A to B, I need you to stay safe, please, so always remember this beat.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Most people out here think that taking care of one another is important. And most people would step up for a neighbor going through a tough time. Most people around here help out friends and family when they need it. But the funny thing is, most of us won't look for help when we need it. Talk to someone if you're struggling with mental health, because most people out here really care. Find more information at loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
He's always worn a mask to conceal his secret identity. Dave Elliott.
Thank you very much, and good morning to you on this Wednesday morning. We're looking forward to checking in with Jim Watkins in a few minutes from way up in, well, I say way up, like I'm like some distance away in Cape Coral. He'll be with us this morning, and we look forward to checking in with what's on his mind. That'll be happening. And also later in the show, we're going to give you a chance to win a $50 gift certificate to Shula's Steakhouse as part of Sizzle Dining's big experience, which kicks off September 1st. We're getting a little head start on it. You'll be able to take these gift cards. You don't have to wait till September 1st to use the gift cards, by the way. You can use them whenever you want. But, of course, Sizzle Dining is the great dining experience, which has turned into just a phenomenal success under the guidance of Guy Clark. We're going to have Guy on the show next week to talk about what's going to happen with the 140 restaurants that they've signed up to be part of this thing. It's taken on a life of its own. It's really quite something. So a $50 gift certificate to Shula's Steakhouse going to be the prize on the impossible question in about an hour from now. So stay there. Don't go anywhere. By now, you have heard the sad news that Dolly Parton has left the planet to go be with her longtime husband, Carl Dean, at the pearly gates. She died at the age of 80 yesterday. Apparently had a brief bout with cancer. So her nephew, I guess it is, Brian Seaver, put an Instagram video out yesterday, something that Dolly had wanted him to do for a number of years when it came to that time. And among the things he said was, I first went on the road with Dolly as a kid, getting a taste of the road life in the early 1980s. Dolly opened doors not just for me, but for her entire family to reach the potential we didn't even know was possible. Dolly also opened doors for generations of singers, songwriters, musicians, and dreamers from every walk of life and across every continent. By her example, he said, we believed that anything is possible. She never saw a door she couldn't open, and the door she opened made and changed history. The accolades are pouring in. They're really quite remarkable. You knew that everybody loved Dolly Parton, but I don't think you realized how many people from diverse backgrounds, as anything from the president declaring that we were going to fly flags at half-staff for a week, to the most liberal pundits out there agrees there may have been no bigger saint on earth than Dolly Parton. And certainly, I never had a chance to meet her, but I'm sure if I did, I would be thrilled, would have been thrilled to do so. I've met a lot of different celebrities and country singers, George Strait, Charlie Pride, people like that, but she was one of a kind. And you know, the thing about her was she was in on the joke. the big hair, the plastic surgery that she had. She even made jokes about her own plastic surgery. But she is in a better place now, and we are all a little bit better because in some ways we were touched by her artistry. And it's the end of an era. It definitely is. She is the godmother of Miley Cyrus. And I was surprised to learn, I think I had heard this one time, but they're actually related in some way. But Miley and even Taylor Swift weighed in with a pretty emotional tribute to Dolly Parton. So thank you, Dolly, for all you did for us. And we look forward to meeting up with you at a later time. In other news this morning at 7:41, Beijing has threatened to retaliate if China is hit by President Trump's new Iran sanctions, raising fears of a fresh trade war between us and China, just what we need. China's ties with Iran should not be interfered with or undermined, Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian warned yesterday, just hours after the White House vowed to target countries that refuse to cut ties with Tehran. China is closely monitoring relevant developments and will take all necessary measures to firmly safeguard its own rights and interests, he told a press conference in Beijing. Mr. Lin called for dialogue and negotiation rather than economic warfare, his words, not mine. He said sanctions would escalate tensions, create spillover risks, and disrupt the global economic and financial order. His comments came after Scott Bessent, Mr. Trump's Treasury Secretary, launched Operation Economic Outcast on Monday, which aims to fully isolate Iran from the global economy and financial system. This could include using secondary sanctions to punish countries that trade with, invest in, or lend to the Iranian regime. And one of those is China, which is a major trading partner with Iran. Although it's interesting that in Mr. Bessent's speech and subsequent taking of questions by reporters, the word China never came up. More to come on this. I don't think we've heard the end of it. Apparently, we're in trade wars now with Canada as well. And that one's getting ugly. Why? Why do we have to be in trade wars with everybody? Ontario Premier Doug Ford said that Ronald Reagan would be, his words, throwing up over President Trump's trade policy as he threatened to cut off electricity and critical minerals to the U.S. as a trade dispute with Canada escalates. Ford said Monday that Trump has miscalculated Canadians' willingness to endure economic pain rather than give in to U.S. pressure. He said he underestimates Canada. We're all in. Up here, we're at a fever pitch. Everyone's in for an economic war. They know they're going to have to sacrifice. Ford said Trump has, quote, declared war, economic war against his closest friend and ally, quote unquote, then turned his attention to Reagan and his classic opposition to tariffs. Ford highlighted that Trump keeps a portrait of Reagan near his desk and stated, quote, he'd be throwing up on him from the picture if he knew what was going on, spinning around in his grave right now. He should maybe take that picture off the wall and move it somewhere else, Ford continued, because right now Ronald Reagan would be disgusted. Now, Doug Ford is a pretty outspoken guy, so it isn't any surprise that he said some of the things he said. But it looks like this war of words is turning into a war of trade, and it could wind up costing us more for everything from plywood to hockey sticks, whiskey to paper products, and who knows what else. Just what we need. Luis Manuel Aviles Roa, the father of a U.S. Navy soldier on board the USS Abraham Lincoln, was released by Immigrations and Customs Enforcement after being picked up after the service member called the arrest heartbreaking. Aviles Roa, a native of Nicaragua, was arrested by federal immigration officials Saturday, according to the Department of Homeland Security, which said the man had entered the country illegally. The arrest gained widespread national attention after Aviles Roa's son, Joshua Aviles, revealed that he had learned his father had been taken into immigration custody while on his 9th month serving on the USS Lincoln, which has set records for uninterrupted time at sea. The aircraft carrier has also been at the center of reports of moral issues and subpar conditions faced by sailors. Aviles wrote in a Facebook post over the weekend, "I don't know how I can mentally continue working 12-plus hour days, knowing that my dad is somewhere possibly being treated like a criminal. My dad's only crime, in quotes, was coming to this country to give my siblings and me a better life. And I think this is a PR move on the part of ICE to get the guy out of detention." Cathy Delgado, Aviles' half-sister, told CBS News on Tuesday afternoon that ICE had released Aviles Roa, though the conditions of his release were not immediately clear. His arrest was the latest example of military families being caught up in the president's crackdown on illegal immigration since his administration launched its mass deportation campaign and reversed limits on ICE arresting military spouses and parents. These arrests have become more common. Now, the man had been in this country for 19 years, had a social security card, had a driver's license, was actually had applied for and was approved for a green card, but it had not arrived yet. In other words, it was like in the mail or in process. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that this whole crackdown was designed to get rid of the worst of the worst. Wasn't it supposed to be criminals and rapists and mental patients and all kinds of miscreants who were here? Those were supposed to be the ones that were sent back, not kids, not people who have made a life for themselves here and who may have come to the country illegally but have now gained legal status. I'm not sure if this is about really getting rid of the worst or just to make a point that we're getting rid of anybody that we think may have committed the heinous crime of wanting to move to the United States. Granted, they should do it the right way, but the immigration system in this country is totally and completely broken. It's beyond dysfunctional. It's not even functional in any way. And what the hoops you have to go through, the costs you have to undergo, the calisthenics you have to do are really onerous, and they maybe ought to be not, just easy, like filling out a form and saying, okay, you're a citizen. But the system we have now doesn't work. And it would seem to me that if you're going to fix the problem of illegal immigration, fix the actual immigration system itself, redefine the rules, set up processes, have people available to help with immigration into the country, and then you can say we're doing our very best. But right now, all we're doing is we're letting people take advantage of a broken system, and then we're punishing them when they do. It just seems, it's like having an illness and they give you a medicine for the symptoms, but they don't treat the underlying disease. They just keep treating the symptoms. Yeah, you're still sick, but you don't feel sick because you're taking drugs. Maybe they need to fix the system. The Trump administration is, for the first time, threatening the demolition of the Kennedy Center. The demolition of the Kennedy Center if the arts institution isn't allowed to follow its plans for the site, including adding President Donald Trump's name to the front of the building. Justice Department Attorney Brantley T. Mayers, why he's involved in this, I don't know. But he wrote in a court filing Monday, without those efforts, the center will deteriorate further into an unsafe, decrepit structure that will be required to be taken down, with a determination to follow on what to build on the site, such as a large outdoor amphitheater overlooking the Potomac River that has been proposed by some for many years. The filing notes that any potential outdoor amphitheater would fail to adequately honor President John F. Kennedy, but would be simpler and more economical to build, operate, and maintain. Like the ballroom. That kind of simple. The DOJ attorneys called the Kennedy Center structurally unsound, fundamentally unsafe, and embarrassing to the nation's capital. They said the center's board, which was handpicked by Mr. Trump, who was the self-appointed chairman, recognizes that the president's efforts and prestige provide the sole hope for the center's financial survival and structural renewal. Nobody else on the planet can do it but him. The board also underscores, and the undisputed evidence demonstrates, he said, that without the prominent recognition of the Trump administration and President Trump's efforts, the donors will not contribute, and the center will continue to be in a financial and structural death spiral. The Trump administration and President Donald J. Trump should therefore be given the respect and dignity of acknowledgement, the filing says. So this filing is all about putting a name on a building. It notes that Trump, quote, obtained about $258 million in funding from Congress for capital restoration and has marshaled a new donor base to finance an endowment for the center, but does not say, by the way, what has happened to that money, according to reporting by NBC News. The filing is kind of a dramatic twist in the saga over the last number of months to renovate the art institution, which has faced multiple legal challenges and criticism from Democrats, musicians, and members of the Kennedy family. One of the reasons that finances are in such dire straits right now is because of the people who have canceled their appearances at the center because they didn't like what was going on there. And there's just not enough revenue to support it. So now the big threat is, you don't give us what we want, we're going to tear it down. And I don't know if you saw this or not on the news last night, but this is kind of disturbing. Since the degenerative brain disease known as CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, was first, I believe that's what it is. Yes, chronic traumatic encephalopathy was first scientifically linked to football about 20 years ago. And as hundreds of former professional football players have been diagnosed with the disease after their deaths, there is a kind of a haunting sort of question out there. Just how many NFL players will end up with CTE? New data provides quite the indication. At least 1 in 4 of all the people who have played in the NFL might expect to end up with chronic traumatic encephalopathy, according to a study of hundreds of cases over a recent 6-year period. 1 out of 4. Researchers considered every former NFL player who died from 2016 to 2021. There were 878. Some died in their 20s, some in their 80s, most in between. The The study's main finding was simple math. At least 215 of those 878 former players, 24.5%, had CTE, which, as it turns out, I think the research is indicating some changes here, but up until recently, the only way you could tell if somebody had CTE was after they died and you did an autopsy. But the actual prevalence of this disease could be higher. The roughly 25% rate does not consider the 643 brains that were not examined. Some of those, maybe many of them, likely had CTE as well. It's a progressive neurological disease caused by repeated impacts to the head. It can be definitively diagnosed only, as I mentioned, by examining the brain after death. Studies have shown that the rate of CTE in people who have not sustained repeated impacts to the head, people who have not, is nearly zero. Almost nobody gets CTE unless they've been whacked in the head a bunch of times. And if the new study statistics were applied to today's players, 1,696 on the league's 32 regular season rosters, not counting more than 500 members of practice squads and those ineligible due to injury, at least 400 of them, based on those numbers, would be diagnosed with CTE, statistically. Experts say the rate of brain disease represents an occupational safety hazard with little comparison in the American workplace. And some say, well, look at the money you're getting paid to play the game. Is there any amount of money that you would pay to have the crap kicked out of you, your head beaten on the ground so many times with the idea that maybe it'll kill you eventually? If this... Let's say they were construction workers and they were constantly getting whacked by metal beams that were being swung around by a crane to do a high rise. How long do you think it would be before OSHA shut that thing down? How come there isn't the same kind of safeguard in place for the NFL? Experts say the rate of brain disease represents an occupational safety hazard with little comparison in the American workplace. David Michaels, who led the Occupational Safety and Health Administration during the Obama administration and is now a professor at the George Washington School of Public Health, said, there are workers who've been exposed to high levels of asbestos exposure, which leads to very high rates of lung disease. And certainly, a lifetime working in coal mines leads to a very high risk of black lung disease. I think that's called mesothelioma. But a degenerative neurological disease, he said, I've never seen anything comparable. It was first discovered in boxers nearly a century ago and was called dementia pugilistica. Symptoms can include memory loss, confusion, uncharacteristic mood swings, decreases in executive function, and increases in erratic and impulsive behavior, including addiction. CTE, certainly something to be worried about if you're in the NFL. Jim Watkins joins us, so stick around. We'll be back right after this.
The Dave Elliott Show.
A minute out for Alice Sweetwaters. You know how much I love Alice's? Well, let me tell you how much I love Alice's. For the last 22 years, I have been telling everybody I can about how great Alice Sweetwaters is. From their fresh-made seafood dishes to their incredible bar, their wild wine list, the ability to eat indoors or outdoors, and I might add, some pretty darn nice gazpacho, you will find exactly what you're looking for at Alice Sweetwaters. Try the shrimp wontons, for example. They're absolutely fantastic. Or the little mini sliders, or the grouper fish and chips, or the grouper dinner, or the grouper Reuben. You get my drift? There's a lot of stuff going on at Alice Sweetwaters, including the best sandwich in America, the Lobster Reuben. Check it all out at the corner of Airport Road and Glades Boulevard. Alice Sweetwater's, where they serve crabs, shrimps, and big people.
Have you finally found your dream home, or are you looking to refinance or pull equity from your home? Then call Alpha Title Services of Florida. Don't let fraud or hidden property issues, such as liens, unpaid taxes, boundary mistakes, or a cloud on title, to name a few, ruin your big day. That's why you need Alpha Title Services in your corner. They do the deep digging to complete your contract conditions and assure your title is clear in order to provide the ultimate protection on your family's investment. Before you sign on the dotted line, make sure your future will be truly yours by contacting Alpha Title Services at 239-260-1495. To protect your dream, let your realtor or lender know you choose Alpha Title Services of Florida to handle all of your closing needs. Trust the people who have been serving the real estate community since 1999. Trust the people you can call to ask questions before signing your contract. Trust Alpha Title Services of Florida. Online at alphatitleservices.com or call 239-260-1495.
And here's Heather with the weather.
Well, it's beautiful out there, sunny and 75, almost a little chilly in the shade. Now, let's get a read on the inside of your car. It is hot. You've only been parked a short time and it's already 99 degrees in there. Let's not leave children in the back seat while running errands. It only takes a few minutes for their body temperatures to rise, and that could be fatal.
Cars get hot, fast, and can be deadly. Never leave a child in a car. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
When Dave talks, his lips actually move. Dave Elliott.
Okay, we're back, and thank you for joining us this morning. And also say good morning to Jim Watkins, way up there. And I say way up there in Cape Coral. You're not really way up there. You're up there. But you're not way up there.
How are you?
I'm doing okay for an old guy.
Well, me too, and it's always a pleasure to speak with you on Wednesdays.
You know, I was thinking about this Dolly Parton dying thing yesterday, and I was watching one of the news channels, and they broke into programming to talk about her death, and I didn't realize that it would turn into a day of national unity. It was kind of nice to hear everybody from every side of the political and economic spectrum talking about what a great human being Dolly Parton was.
Well, I will just say that the thought had occurred to me. I felt the same way as you. And in fact, I said something to my wife about that. It's like, she was, she was sexy, but she was classy. There was an air of class about her. I underestimated her, actually, all this time. I didn't realize how much she had accomplished.
Well, she was a philanthropist. I mean, she was a self-made person. She grew up in dirt poor poverty. I mean, she had nothing. They were scrapping for food when she was a kid. And she turned it into an incredible career. Do you know that she wrote her two biggest hits, I Will Always Love You and Jolene, in the same night?
Well, the gods were looking kindly upon her. And that brings up a good point, because number one, when you have the gift of being able to sing, that's a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
Two, when you have music ability, you can pick up a guitar and play it really well. Those two elements, and the fact that she's very cute and probably was even as a little kid, she was almost guaranteed success. But the way that she handled her success is what makes her really special. She always centered on her faith, very Christian, and she didn't irritate people. She just had this affable, lovable character that opened a lot of doors. And frankly, I've said to you, where are all the leaders? Where are all the inspirational people in our lives these days?
Well,
she was one of them.
Yep.
Definitely. And so we lost somebody pretty special.
And she lived by example. You can, it's one thing to talk a good game, but it's quite the other to live it. And she didn't ask for anything in return. She made millions of dollars, but she did that on her own as a self-made person. And she gave millions and millions and millions back. You know that she has been responsible for over 300 million books being distributed to kids across this country?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing what one person can do when they put their mind to it.
Yep.
And they have an unusually high amount of money. But all of it, I'm a little upset, and I want to ask your audience, and maybe even you.
Okay.
But Dolly's one of my favorite. When I started in radio in 1981 or 82, I worked at a country music station in outskirts of Houston, like everybody in radio.
Yeah, we've all done country at some point in our lives.
Yeah, and I didn't know anything about country. I was a rock and roller. I didn't know the difference between Travis Tritt and I don't know anyway. Ronnie
Miley
Millsap.
Cyrus.
But anyway, but there was a song that Dolly Parton did called. She did the rendition of "House of the Rising Sun." Now, yesterday, because I was feeling sort of sentimental about it, I wanted to hear the song, so I went online and I went Apple and I typed in. And the version that I got is like a 90s mix of the song. It's not the same song. And I looked everywhere and I couldn't find the original single that came out. I think it was like 81, 82. And it was Dolly Parton's House of the Rising Sun, which is a remake of the Animals song. And if anybody out there has a copy of that or can tell me where I can find it, because I couldn't find it. They got this 90s mix. It sounds like disco. With keyboard, sounds more like Duran Duran.
What was it? Just her playing guitar, maybe with some rhythm?
Well,
and
no. It was
bass?
just a different mix. It was like there was less piano, and it was just more of her voice was different. This one, they added all this extra layer of keyboards, and it's not the same song. And they do that sometimes. They'll redo or remix something and leave it alone. I'm sorry, but if you have a copy, can you send me a copy? Because I'd love to add that to my collection.
Oh, how can people email you?
Do you give out your email address?
Well, actually, what you can do is you can email me at fmtalker@daveontheair.com. That's my email, and I'll get it to you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
I want to use it for something.
One time I interviewed Richard Carpenter.
Oh, wow.
It was about 2 or 3 years ago. I interviewed him. He had a new compendium of Carpenter's songs that came out, and so I had a chance to chat with him, and I did, and we played the interview. I'll at some point again I'm going to play it back. But one of the things that he has done with his career is lived off the legacy of him and his sister from
I'd say so.
from the 80s, in the 70s before she died. And he constantly is remixing their albums. I own just about everything that they've ever put out.
Boy, you're a big fan of the Carpenters.
I am a big fan of the Carpenters. I have a thing called the Essential Carpenters. It's like 4 equivalent of about 2 full CDs of music, maybe 3. And it has stuff from their early days. There are demos that you've never heard before.
A lot of people like the Grateful Dead, Bob Dylan. No.
Yeah.
Dave Elliott? No, the Carpenters.
Well, I grew up in an era of, I was a trained musician, and that was what appealed to me. But he has made a career since Karen died about 44 years ago. Mm. He has made a career out of repackaging their songs. And do a mix.
Oh, what else does he got to do?
Well, that's it. I mean, he's 70. I think he's 77 or 78 now.
Yeah,
and he's still doing it. Yeah,
yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. It's I wish I'd had if all the things that I wish I could have been born with. I wish I would have been born with more musical skills because I love music so much, and it's like it's close. But you can't. I just have not had the discipline to teach myself music. Do you play music?
I am. I've been known to play the piano from time to time, and I was a singer.
Right there. Yeah.
And I've been an orchestra conductor. I mean, I've done stuff.
Maestro.
Choir director. Yeah, I mean, it's a fun thing to do, but you don't need to be a musician to appreciate it, as you have demonstrated. I mean, you were a country jock. I've been a top 40 jock, a country jock, oldies. I've done it all. And
I've done it all. Hey, I was going to ask you.
But I'm not
speaking
the
of-
only one to do it, like certain people think they are.
You could probably relate to this, Dave. This past weekend, I was the one rare occasion where I decided to leave my house, take a chance.
Hermit Jim.
Yeah. I have to go to a wedding next month. My son's getting married.
Oh, that's a pretty
All
important
places-
wedding to
of
go
all
to.
places in North Carolina, so that means everybody has to go for some ungodly reason. Go to North Carolina, where there's some sort of casino nearby. Anyway,
We'll find you at the slot machines.
yeah. So just to show you how much I take seriously, instead of buying a nice suit, and everybody has to dress a certain. And so I'm gonna go, and I have to rent myself a suit. And dummy me, I decided, I already have a white shirt. My wife reminded me, no, dummy, when you rent the suit, the white shirt comes with it. So I went back to, can I mention them or no?
You can
want
say
me to
it.
mention
Yeah,
Men's
this is it.
Warehouse?
This is. Oh, wait a minute. I tried something here and it didn't work.
Oh.
I'm gonna go back and fix it. No, this is not radio, so we can mention brand names.
Well, anyway, so I went into Men's Warehouse on a Saturday, and they were really busy. Really busy. I mean, and that's fine. I stood there and I waited and waited and waited. And I decided to go run some errands and then come back when it wasn't so busy. So I came back and it was still kind of busy, but I stayed there in line. And then somebody finally came up to me and said, have you been helped? And I just said, I need to get fitted for a shirt. And that's it. And they, the funny thing about it is that right next to the line, there's a big sign that says, scan your QR code for something. I thought it was like, signing up for Men's Warehouse email. I had no idea that you had to check in. Like, 'cause
What?
I thought I was
In a
standing
clothing
in line.
store, you have to like you mean go into a doctor's office?
Yeah, and when I caught the person to help me, they said, "Oh well, yeah, I'd be happy to help you. Did you scan in your QR code yet?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, you're going to have to wait because other people have. So you'll have to get." And I thought, is that the new thing now? You have to sign in whenever you go to a store, or if you always have to, because those QR codes, I don't know what that involves. I don't know how much information they might be pulling from my phone number, I have no idea. All I know is they want me to scan something to register myself as an entity before they can do business. I think that's kind of like a digital prison.
Well,
What if I didn't have an
I
iPhone?
would argue that you're completely right. I think that well, no, because there's no other reason to have you scan something unless they plan to use it to market to you later. Right?
Well, that's the whole point, but But the thing is why do I have to digitally sign in when they're standing there and I'm standing here? And what's the difference? They could tell me, well, you'll have to wait till these other people are done. But he told me specifically, no, you've got to sign in with your QR code before I can deal with you. And I thought that was very strange.
And I'll tell you what's even weirder than that is if you ask him what information they have from the QR code, he won't know. Or will pretend not to know.
Yeah.
I would have just gone to Macy's at that point.
Yeah, well, I know, but anyway, I walked out, but a grumpy old man walking out of a store,
huffing and puffing,
just like my grandpa.
Well, have you ever gone to a?
I'm not paying
Have
10
you ever had
cents
to
for
go
a
to
candy.
a? Have you ever had to go to a cell phone store?
Not in a long time.
That's complete torture.
Oof, it's been a while. About
First
6
of all,
years.
you walk into the cell phone store and your blood pressure goes up 20 points right away, just walking in. And then there is an interminable wait, even if all you need is, I just want to buy a case for my phone. Well, you're going to have to wait your turn. What does that mean? Well, we've got 6 people ahead of you, including 3 people who've never owned a cell phone before, and I have to teach them how to use it. And then, I just want to buy a case. Well, we'll be with you shortly. At which point you turn around and walk out.
Yeah, you go to CVS next door.
Exactly. $12. You're in and out. And you get a 12-foot long receipt from CVS. So,
I wanted to ask you about the Byron Donalds commercials. Do you like them? Have you seen the one where he's playing with his kids basketball?
I have.
Do you like it?
Well, no, I don't.
Have you already made up your mind? Have you already decided you're not voting for Byron Donalds?
I have made up my mind.
In the race?
I'm not going to say.
Don't you want to hear him debate?
I do want to see a debate. The question is, will he do it?
Well, here's what I'll say to that. David Jolly is also running an ad campaign, his first. So this is his first.
I haven't seen any of his ads.
Work, so do you. And he's now basing this is the mistake. And it's a stupid mistake because it's lacking in substance. If he's got something, he cannot run on just being against Donald Trump. And that's his first commercial. That's what the commercial's about. He doesn't talk about what he believes, what he wants, what vision he has for Florida. All it is one comment, which is, I'm against Trump. So if you're against Trump, vote for me. And that, to me, is not the strongest campaign message.
I haven't seen it. I thought I'd seen all the political ads. I see the basketball one with Byron Donalds all the time.
It's a good one. Plays to family. You know, they're saying he could run for president at some point. If he becomes the governor and does a good job, he could run for president. And now what are the Democrats going to do?
Well, first of all, he has to get name recognition, which he doesn't have really outside the state of Florida. So that would be a long shot. Now, if he gets into office, is he going to become a culture warrior? I'm really tired of the culture wars. I'm tired of the, vilifying everybody that doesn't look or sound like you. I'm tired of, the war on woke. I don't even know what is woke anyway. Do you know what woke is?
You're woke and you don't know it. That's why you're woke.
Oh, if you don't know it, you're automatically woke.
You have to believe in a certain group of things, and basically, it's if you look at somebody like Jane Fonda or Michelle Obama, people in those positions of leadership, Oprah. There's a certain set of beliefs that they believe. And I guess at the root of them is that reality is relative, that you can kind of have your own reality and nobody has a right to question it. And everything is seen through the lens of oppression. That's the main thing, is that, people that are woke will assume that any person who committed a crime probably did so because they had a bad childhood or they faced some sort of, something else created that evil that is in that person. It's not their fault. That's kind of a woke. Everything is seen through the lens of oppression, kind of a thing.
Well, I guess I'm not woke because I don't feel oppressed.
Well, you're not oppressed.
I feel
you
depressed.
See other people as being oppressed.
I feel depressed at sometimes.
Like, for example, let's take the issue of transgenderism. A woke person would assume that person has a right to feel the way that they should feel, and no one has a right to tell them otherwise. But a person who is not woke would say that person is suffering from some sort of disorder, and they should probably find out what that disorder is, and maybe that'll solve the problem. So it's two different ways of looking at reality.
So one is woke and one is sleep.
Yeah.
If you have woke, you got what's the opposite of woke is sleep, right?
Yeah, or awake. Awake and woke.
Awake and woke.
If you're somebody like everybody in my family is on the left, so I can. But non-woke people don't have all the answers either, and they don't have sometimes they don't make a good enough argument. That's my observation. Like you and I talk about climate change, for example. Now, a woke person would adopt the thing that absolutely man is causing everything that's happening right now is because of what man is doing to the planet. Now, I don't take that position. I do agree with you that man has a tremendous effect, but we also tend to look at weather relative to how it suits us. So when we see lots of tornadoes and flooding, like we talked about, because of the danger that it poses to human beings, we assume that it's bad.
Well, regarding climate change, I would argue that with climate change, which is sort of off the subject of wokeness for a moment, but something is happening, and whether or not we can modify our own behavior to help mitigate that, or we have to just plan for the inevitable, we need to do something. You know
well,
what I
would
mean?
believe that, but I know that there's so much evidence that shows that this was sort of a contrived thing back in the 70s and 80s, Al Gore, and there were certain influencers, the guy that came up with the hockey stick scenario, and they cherry pick data.
Oh, everybody
to make
does
the
that.
argument.
Everybody does that.
I'll give a good example. Now they're talking about how it feels, the heat index. And to me, what they've done is they've figured out a way to make that number go even higher. So that now it's 92 degrees, but it feels like 108 degrees. Well, if it feels, it might feel different for a person who might be obese versus a person who's thin, maybe a person who has a higher tolerance for heat. So when you say something feels like, that is a subjective observation. You can't tell me what 109 feels like, except, we factored in the humidity and we think that it's going to feel like 109 degrees. So now when they show the highs on the weather map, they always show the feels like, and you're sitting there going, damn, I'm not going outside today. It's going to be 109 degrees. When the fact is it's 92, So, and you can't go back in time and measure what feels like today versus what actually was in 1876 or something,
Well, we have ways to objectively measure the average temperatures of the planet. We do. There is an objective way to measure that.
Do you know what the global mean temperature is, Dave?
I don't know what it is either in centigrade or in Fahrenheit. But I know that they're saying if it goes up a degree and a half centigrade, we'll have major polar ice cap melting and sea level rise.
If the average were to, which is another tricky thing, because the average actually changes every day based on the latest data.
It does.
So what the average was yesterday is now altered by today. And
but only minutely.
The global temperature, I think, is like 56.1 degrees. And don't ask me how they came up with that, but I guess that's what they came up with. But it used to be when you and I were young, back in the Archezoic age, it was 55.1 or 55.3 or something. So it's about a temperature. It's about a degree and a half that it's changed. And so that might happen. And what happens? Well, maybe we should move inland a little bit, shouldn't we?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Why are they rebuilding everything on Fort Myers Beach?
That's what I'm saying. It's not so much the idea that it's caused by man or cow farts or, internal combustion engines. Whatever is causing it, it's happening. And rather than sit here with our head in the sand, we need to be taking steps to prepare for it. It may be too late to fix anything that humans may have done to break things, if in fact that's the case, and I am skeptical about that. But we need to prepare for what is apparently going to happen.
I agree, and that's why when I drove through Palm Springs...
But climate change or global warming skeptics, whatever you want to call them, say, oh, no need to worry because this is a made-up thing. Well, what's made up
that's not what they're saying, though.
But that is what a lot of people are saying, and they're saying it because they want to make you think that global warming or climate change or whatever you want to call it isn't a real thing. It is a real thing. It's just the real disagreement is over how it came to be.
That's true. But here's the thing. The Mayans were very good at using climate change. If you've seen Apocalypto or if you've done reading on the Mayan culture, when they were having this horrific drought, 1500 AD or something, but the smart, the elite, the educated class of the Mayans knew star mapping, and that's where we came up with the Mayan calendar and all this. So they were very smart about how things would happen. And they knew when like there would be a solar eclipse, but they didn't tell the general population. So what they would do is they would use the solar eclipse as a way of like awing
mystical,
a
mystical event.
And then they start chopping off their heads as part of the ceremony.
They land in that little basket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of research on this subject, and I think myself fairly knowledgeable about the climate and the ecosystem and the feedback loop that sometimes happen. And we're going through a period. Actually, we just missed we just went through a solar maximum, and that's when we had a lot of solar activity. You might remember the last couple of years we've been getting blasted.
But I just saw that
now
we're
we're going
expecting
into a minimum.
But I just saw there's about to be some new solar flares that will cause for some pretty spectacular aurora borealis.
Some are saying we could see a cooling in the 30s, 2030, 2031.
Well,
so
that
we'll
would
have
be
to
good.
keep an eye on it.
That'd be good.
But overall, yeah, we need as human beings, to make your point, Dave, is if we're going to prepare for the climate to change and be even worse, then what we don't want to do, and I say this, if it broke my heart when I was driving through the desert a few months ago and I saw all the wind turbines they had up. Each one of those suckers cost about $5 million to make, and maybe 2% of them were spinning, and it's just a heap of metal, and those things someday are going to have to come down. And if you read the research on how they perform and the toxicity of what they emit, the gases they need to keep those turbines spinning, the maintenance costs, the raw materials that went into it, they're never going to get the return on investment. And what we're going to get stuck with is a desert full of these giant windmills that don't do anything. And that's, to me, a misallocation of resources. So,
well, I'll tell you what else is going to be a misallocation of resources is building these giant AI data centers.
Yeah. And isn't that funny? I mean, here we're told that, our bills are going to go up because we're going to help to build more solar panels and more windmills and all this stuff. We got to save our energy and blah, blah, blah. And then they turn around and they want to build these megawatt centers that are going to make our energy bills go up again. So,
here's what I see happening. I see this rush to spend billions and billions and billions of dollars to build these things. They get built. And then somebody invents a chip that runs on liquid poop that you can operate for 25 cents an hour, and it will make the data centers obsolete. It always happens. Technology does that. And all these massive data centers are going to sit there empty and vacant, and nobody's going to know what to do with it, and the money will have been flushed down the drain. That's what's going to happen. The fact that this has become the technology du jour tells you that it's not well thought out because it's happening so fast. It's all knee jerk. One guy builds a data center. Oh, we got to have 50 of them or 100 of them. They want to build one in DeSoto County.
Out there in the cow pastures?
Yeah. And the county commission is arguing, look, man, this is going to be great for our tax base. DeSoto County is one of the poorest counties in the state of Florida.
Well, it's because nobody lives there. Yeah.
Well, I know. and the fewer are going to live there if they have to compete with a data center.
Yeah. Well, although, a DeSoto County could make a lot of money by, making. I mean, did you hear about that one lady in Mississippi? They wanted to buy her land or something.
$27 million they offered her, and she said no.
Yeah, how long do you think DeSoto's? They must have a city council. What do you think they'd all do if somebody came and said $50 million right now? Say yes.
Well,
they'd probably say yeah.
I would definitely say yes, and then I'd move to Wyoming.
Get a place on the East Coast.
yeah, where sea level rise is already happening. When they have the king tides over there, the water runs up over the roads.
Oh, I know.
I mean, it's really something. So tell me how Bio News Update is coming.
Well, the big shocking story from last week, which I mentioned, and I thought I may have misspoke. It wasn't typhoid; it was typhus. The homeless problem is really something they kind of unrelated. There's two stories that I wanted to tell you. One was this: is that they want to have sex centers now for the homeless.
Sex centers? You mean where they can go have sex?
Where they can go relieve themselves. Isn't that something?
Really?
It's the city council came up with that one. They said they
was
said that
this?
they were feeling bad that the homeless didn't have a place where they could go and have sexual relations.
Where is this? Where is this?
That's a good example of woke.
Where is this happening?
Los Angeles, far away.
Oh, L.A.
Far away.
La La Land.
Don't have to worry about it.
And what was the other thing?
The other one is that there was a new report out by the National Institute of Health where they have determined that there are factors that cause stress in young people, and that they feel that the only way to deal with this stress, let me correct that, not just stress, but stress from parents arguing. And that the government wants to look into ways that they could encourage parents to not create stressful situations for their young, because they may develop symptoms like ADHD. And
well, I have a suggestion for the government. Stay the hell out of people's private lives.
Yeah.
It's not the government's place to tell parents how to be. It's just not.
Well, but it's all about the kids, though. See, that's what they do. They always use it's the same with, how do you feel about and I don't know if they do this in Naples, but in Cape Coral, they're doing, which I was against from the day one, they put the camera now on a bus.
Yeah.
And anybody that drives by that bus,
$260.
Right? Even if there's no kids, and even on the weekends, if you go through a speed zone and and school is out, you could still get a ticket from these cameras, and it's all done under the guise of the children. So I thought to myself, that's a pretty tall order. Let's get all the buses, get all these things cameraed up. Let's start. How much money have they made? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. I thought, man, there must have been a real epidemic of kids getting hit by buses. So I did some research, and I found out that since 2015, there was I don't mean to diminish this, but there was just one kid, and it was out in Lehigh Acres where they don't have sidewalks.
Yeah, well, they don't have sidewalks in much of
We're
Cape
doing
Coral,
all
too.
this. If that was the case, if they said, oh, well, it's one kid too much. Then I think, they do all this construction on the freeway nonstop that probably causes accidents that injure kids. Why don't they stop doing that too? Why is it that we have to give up our privacy in the name of them, keeping our kids safe? And I'm not buying it, I think it's just a way for them to make money.
Well, the school. Well, I've always argued that. I argued that when we had red light cameras in Naples. They took them all out eventually, but they had red light cameras in Naples. And I remember in one county commission meeting when they were considering putting the cameras up, somebody said we could make $1 million a year per intersection. They actually admitted that in public.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, at least they're being honest.
And they were, it was not so much about safety, it was about revenue at that point. Well, after mistaken numbers of people were ticketed for turning right on red after coming to a complete stop, they said, okay, well, these things aren't ready for prime time, and they took them all out. But I think the school bus cameras are a good idea, not the speed zone cameras in the school on the street, where even on weekends or when school's out, you get a ticket. That's just stupid. But
I don't think they should get a ticket. I think they should just get their mugshot posted on TV.
Well, state law says you stop when a school bus is letting kids off or having them get on the bus. You stop. If you don't stop, we need to have a way to punish you and teach you to stop. And they can't have a cop at every bus stop. So I think the cameras are legit, but the ones on the buses, not the ones on the street.
The other day, I sat behind a bus for like 10 minutes, and I realized the bus was parked.
Did they have their?
Are you driving? Are you going to move?
Did they have their little stop sign out?
I guess you're probably in favor of those new eye stun gloves.
Oh, no, I think those are terrible.
Oh, why? They're perfectly legitimate. They subdue the person.
Well, it's just that somebody.
I think it's a bad idea.
Well, some cop's going to
stick
some cop's going to forget he's got it on, stick his hand into a cooler of water and electrocute himself. That's what I think is going to happen. They have them in the state of Nebraska, I guess in Omaha, one of the big school districts. The resource officers all were issued these electric shock gloves.
Stun gloves.
Yeah, whatever they're called, glove. It's something. The word glove is an acronym for something emitting voltage. I don't know, something anyway.
Something stupid. Yeah, they always try to do that.
And the school district voted to have the school resource center officers not wear the gloves, but other school districts in the city in and around Omaha have said, no, we're going to leave them be.
Now, again, if you felt like you wanted to have a pair of those gloves, you should be made to feel what it feels like when they're actually used on you.
Agree. I totally agree.
You cannot do that. I mean, people could do that with children, dogs, animals.
Well, if they're available to the police, it's only a matter of time before somebody will be selling them on Amazon for $14.95 for parents of unruly children. And then, I mean, because that's going to happen.
It is going to. And sexual assault. I mean, think about those gloves in the wrong hands. No pun intended.
That was a very good pun. You should have intended that one.
If they're using it in China, that's probably where it got started.
No doubt.
I don't want to live in that. That's where there's articles out today about, our police becoming militarized. Hello. Have you seen the trucks? I don't know how it is in Lee County, but our guy, Marconi, I mean, it looks like a scene from Vietnam, over a traffic ticket. Here comes the truck. Here comes the bomb squad. I mean, it looks like the United States Army. When
you're talking about Marcino, you said Marconi.
Marcino, but I say Marconi.
Yeah, you're a radio guy.
That guy that likes to be on TV a lot.
Enrico Marconi is a hero of all people who were ever in radio.
Is he?
Well, he invented the radio.
Oh, that guy, yeah.
Yeah, he invented the wireless. All right, what's coming up on Q&A with Jim Watkins, your podcast?
I was actually talking about QR codes this week and doing some of the data on that because there is a lot of people should not be so willy-nilly about giving their information when somebody asks you for your phone number at a supermarket and that is it's more serious, but people are just casual about it. And I thought we would take that up as a topic and show some fun research. So
I'm afraid
check it out.
But I'm afraid the cow's already out of the barn on that one. I mean, you're all your personal data is out there already.
I know it's a little late, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, it's worth talking about. And then other than that, no, just big wedding coming up, so that's exciting. And what about you? Doing any traveling for?
No, not really. Just hanging around the hall. I'll take a Labor Day off from the show. Give myself a little break.
Very good.
All right. Well, thank you, Jim. And always a pleasure. I love debating with you because you're so knowledgeable and you do your homework, unlike me, who just works viscerally. So
I don't know how true that is, but thank you.
All right.
Same here, and we'll talk to you next week.
You got it. Thank you. Jim Watkins, everybody, right here on the Dave Elliott Show, and we will be right back.
The Dave Elliott Show.
When it comes to your health, there's no cookie-cutter way to do things. Each person is individualized in their needs and their desires, and that's the case with your hearing, too. Naples Audiology and Hearing Center, with 2 locations in Naples, one in Colonial Square off Goodlette Frank Road, the other in the Vanderbilt Commons at Vanderbilt and Collier Boulevard, are here to help you. They help you with individualized treatment. You go in for a free hearing evaluation, and if you should happen to need a little help from a hearing device, they can offer you the exact device you need, the exact technology you need for your particular needs. Don't let your hearing get in the way of enjoying your life. They even have devices that can cut out the background noise if you're in a big crowd someplace. Naples Audiology and Hearing Center. I've been going to them for years, and I know you should too. Believe me, you will notice the difference right away. Naples Audiology and Hearing Center, online at napleshearingcenter.com.
Are you ready for a culinary experience like no other? Mark your calendars for the event of the season. Sizzle Dining is happening starting September 1st through the 30th. Picture this, a world of flavors, a celebration of taste, and a chance to make a difference in our community. Savor delectable dishes, expertly crafted by top chefs, each plate telling a story of passion and creativity. But that's not all. Sizzle Dining benefits Blessings in a Backpack of Southwest Florida, a charity dedicated to ensuring no child has a hungry weekend. Dine with purpose. Every time you indulge in the exquisite offerings during Sizzle Dining, a portion of the proceeds will go directly to Blessings in a Backpack. So gather your loved ones, invite your friends, and come experience culinary excellence while making a meaningful impact. Share your moments with hashtag Dine with Purpose. Sizzle Dining, taking place the entire month of September, where taste, compassion, and community come together in perfect harmony. Reserve your table today, because with Sizzle Dining, every bite counts and every meal matters.
It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
The impossible question on the Dave Elliott Show.
And today, through the courtesy of Sizzle Dining, we have a chance for you to win a $50 gift certificate to Shula's Steakhouse. You know Shula's in the Hilton Naples Hotel on US 41, just south of Pine Ridge Road. The best steaks you'll have this side of heaven. I'm not kidding you either. I've had their sauteed spinach, and I absolutely love it. So you could join anybody you want and take that $50 gift certificate and go dine out at Shula's Steakhouse. If you know the answer to our impossible question today, and you're the first person to call us with the correct answer. As I mentioned before, I'm waiving my 30-day rule with one exception. If you won previously but not a Sizzle Dining prize, you can win today. Even if you won in the last 60 days, or last 30 days rather. You can win today, but you can only win one Sizzle Dining prize during our promotion. So get ready to text or call us at 305-699-2665 if you think you know the answer to our IQ today. And here we go. Here's the impossible question. I think this is a gimme today. 150 million of these are sold every year in America, with the bulk of sales happening between May and the 4th of July. What is it? 150 million of these are sold every year in America, with a bulk of sales happening between May and the 4th of July. Call or text me right now at 305-699-2665, and let's see if we can't give away a Shula's $50 gift certificate. Peggy says fireworks. Sorry, Peggy, that's not correct. Diane from Marco weighing in. And let's see what she says. It just says fella. I'm not sure what fella is, but that's incorrect. So give us a call here. Frank is weighing in now via text, and he says fireworks. No, that's not correct. Let's go to the phone and see if we have an answer. Good morning. You're on the air. What do you think it is?
Milkshakes.
Nope, not milkshakes. Sorry to say. Thank you very much for the call. 305-699-2665. Again, the impossible question. 150 million of these are sold every year in America, with the bulk of sales happening between May and the 4th of July. And let me look here and make sure. We have Betty Ann says bathing suits. And somebody says grills. Diane from Marco says grills. But it looks like our winner is Jackie, who says flags are sold between May and July 4th. And Jackie, you are the winner this morning of the impossible question. So congratulations to you. I'll be contacting you after the show and telling you how you can claim your $50 Shula's gift certificate. 150 million of these are sold every year in America, with the bulk of sales happening between May and the 4th of July. And Jackie knew the answer was flags. So congratulations to Jackie, our winner on the impossible question today. She and somebody she likes, or maybe she'll go by herself, I don't know, are off to Shula's Steakhouse as part of the Sizzle Dining experience that's happening beginning September 1st. Congratulations to Jackie. To help address the food shortage crisis in Japan after World War II, something happened in 1958 on August 25th, which would have been, 69 years ago? Yesterday. The shelf-stable noodles, chicken ramen, were invented by Momofuku Ando. Yes, Momofuku Ando. He developed chicken ramen, the first ever instant noodles, on August 25th, 1958. 69 years ago yesterday. The shelf-stable noodles are readily available, take 2 minutes to cook and fill hungry bellies. Today, instant noodles are ubiquitous global fast food, and not just in college dorms. More than 100 billion servings of the Just Add Water meals are consumed annually, according to the World Instant Noodles Association. Yes, there really is such a group. While ramen is considered quintessentially Japanese, it actually originated in China in 1858, 100 years earlier. When Japan ended its nearly 200 years of self-imposed isolation, cultural exchange and trade began to flourish. An influx of Chinese migrants brought their culinary skills to Japan, introduced the wheat-based noodles to Japanese taste buds. After decades of adaptation, the restaurant-quality ramen we know today, which you already know because if you've ever been to college, you probably lived on it for a while, was developed in 1926 by a chef named Wang Wen-chai at a Chinese restaurant in Sapporo, Hokkaido. His challenge was to make noodles that appealed to the palates of both Chinese and Japanese students studying locally. In the years after World War II, widespread food shortages in Japan led to the introduction of black market food vendors selling ramen. According to the Nissen, the company Momofuku Ando founded, Ando noticed long lines forming at the black market ramen stalls. It was then that he set his goal to create noodles that could be quickly prepared and eaten at home with only hot water. And he was tinkering around in his garden shed for a year. He had an epiphany while watching his wife make tempura. Noticing that the hot frying oil was drawing the moisture out of the flour coating, he realized the process of dehydration through frying could preserve the noodles, allowing them to be stored for a long period of time. After perfecting the method, he created the first instant ramen. And that's more than you ever intended to know about ramen noodles. Boy, did we get a bunch of people calling to want to win the Chula's $50 gift certificate. Heard from Frank and Tim and Charles. Heard from Howard. Heard from, let's see, Ed, I think, weighed in on it. No, Peggy weighed in on it this morning. We do have a winner, though, and our winner is Jackie. 150 million of these were sold every year in America, with the bulk of sales happening between May and the 4th of July. And the answer, of course, American flags. A little something I thought you'd have fun with as we head out the door this morning. Wacky but true story here for you. Brazilian police caught a lucky break when a purse snatcher left behind key evidence that led to the thief's arrest. The robber grabbed a woman's handbag and managed to escape. As he ran, he dropped something which was picked up by a farmer. It seems the robber dropped his dentures, which the farmer turned into police. Investigators promptly showed up at the home of the thief, who was missing most of his front teeth. He was told to put on the dentures, and much as Cinderella's shoe, they fit perfectly. And finally, this morning, some of us go overboard with online shopping. If you drive down any street, you're bound to see multiple houses with packages outside. While grabbing your parcels the moment they arrive is ideal, that's generally not possible. A survey from home security company Vivint found that 29% of people in the United States reported they've been the victim of package theft. The most popular day for porch pirates to strike is Mondays, with 34% of people reporting that that's when their items are stolen. The survey found that by a large margin, packages were most commonly stolen in the afternoon. Hey, join us tomorrow. We'll have another impossible question. We're giving away a $100 gift certificate to Next Door Restaurant and Gather. We'll be telling you all about that as part of Sizzle Dining. Join me on Instagram and Facebook at The Dave Elliott Show, and check out our Instagram reel that we'll be posting in just a little while. Meantime, have a great Wednesday, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.